They broke the internet feed yet? Yeah.
You know, it's a beautiful day in Colorado. Great day for cannabis. How's it going on in Chicago? We have nothing but wet.
Yeah, we got your weather. Check test. How we doing on mic 1? Tell KC because I don't have my ears in yet. Am I sounding okay? Do I sound like I belong on radio? You there?
Yes, he is.
Okay, cool. How do I sound? Okay, cool.
Sound check. Good morning. This is KC on Let'sTalkPod.com. Oh, all right. Thank you for the money, sir. That works out.
No, I'd rather. I'm already a lawyer. I need the guns and money.
Lawyers, guns, and radio. I like your little Florida style.
What is this?
So you're recording there. I left my
Lord. Sure is mine, buddy. That's how we roll.
another big news. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me get that thing where I want it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Houghton. It's the Cannabis Business Attorney Hour with Mr. Charles T. Houghton on Let'sTalkPod.com. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I am Charles, the Canabusiness Attorney. I can be reached at charles@thecanabusinessattorney.com. That's not cannabis business. That's canabusinessattorney.com. I got my partner in crime here, Casey.
Good morning, sir. Lots of news going on. Some
yeah.
good, bad, and some ugly, apparently.
Yeah, you can reach Casey at howtomarijuana.com. I also want to remind everybody that we are going to be live in person in Kansas City on June 5th. I booked my tickets. I got my hotel room. I am ready to be in Kansas City.
Kansas City, here we come. This will be fantastic. Live at the Uptown Theater, June 5th, all day, the seminar, expo, and show. So if you want to learn how to do this, where you are at, when you are at, we will be there live talking to you at the Uptown Theater. So please join us. Book online at howtomarijuana.com. There's some interesting little sting operations going on out there in the marijuana world.
Yeah, let's start with Washington.
Yeah, Washington actually had there's 22 legal sellers were warned that there will be inspections. And sure enough, after that warning, a sting operation went around the beautiful state of Washington up there by Seattle, and they actually had 4 pot shops that were found to be selling marijuana to underage, undercover narcs. And it just baffles me. I mean, I've been there, done that when you're in the business and there's lines and you're in a hurry, but you have to check the ID.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
It's like, it is the simplest thing in the world to check someone's ID. It is the second simplest thing in the world to put in a protocol in your store, whether it's medical or retail or both, that says anybody that comes in gets their ID checked, and then there has to be a way that you verify that each person has had their ID checked. It's not that hard.
Yeah, it does show here, Mr. Howard, that quote from Brian Smith, one of the operators in the industry there, we all wanted compliance to be 100%, said the liquor board spokesman. What we hope to get out of this is a spike in compliance by everyone else. I think that definitely was a shot across the bow.
Yeah, it certainly was. And if you read further in the article, it says that Colorado, when they did it, had 100% compliance.
That was interesting too. That was months ago in Colorado. I mean, there is an app for that. We use we use an app on our iPhones and iPads. When people come in, we just blast the back of their ID, and it says yes or no, over 21, verified or not, and it just takes 30 seconds.
Yeah, and you know I understand trying to downplay the bad news, and they're saying that was pretty good, but what it represents is a 22% failure rate, number one, or
20%,
almost 20% failure rate, number one, and number two, there's no excuse for this. I'm sorry if I sound hardcore about this, but I've got a very special place in my heart for people that are willing to play by the rules. Now,
it's not easy.
And it's not easy, but the bottom line
ID is easy.
But the bottom line is that you can bet that any regulator, any police department, any investigator is going to go for the low-hanging fruit. And I've always told people there's a few things. Number one is checking IDs. Also make sure that if they have a medical ID card, that it hasn't been expired. And then the rest of it, if you're in a state that has a plant or an ounce count, make sure that you keep track of that. I've always told people, I can teach monkeys how to count plants, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't have a clue how many plants they have in production. And so, guys, if you're in the industry, it's not that hard. Okay?
Yeah, it actually says here that those who are caught are now facing, the stores themselves could face a 10-day suspension or a $2,500 fine. They have the right to appeal. One of the owners said that he had a procedure in place to check people that looked under 30. I mean, here in Colorado, I don't care what you look like, you get ID.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is too, is that I don't care if you've been into the store 65 times in the last 30 days.
That's right.
And you know them. I don't care if it's your brother-in-law. I don't care if it's your mom. They have to have an ID. And if they're a medical patient, they have to have a red card. We call them red cards in Colorado because the border used to be red. A patient ID card. And I have drilled that into all of the dispensaries and centers that I represent. And, unwaveringly, they're following it. But this is why, because they set up stings.
It was actually interesting. The liquor board spokesman, Brian Smith, also compared it to the liquor industry, where he has about an 85% compliance. So even the liquor stores still don't check IDs, apparently. But when you're in the marijuana business and you're under scrutiny and it's a federal crime still, to not check IDs is...
Well, if you're in the marijuana industry, I've told everyone over and over and over again, you are an ambassador for the industry, number one. And I don't care whether you like that or not, that's the way it is. If you want these laws to advance, then you do it better than anybody else on the street. And I don't care whether it's a liquor store or a jewelry store or selling cigarettes or whatever it is, you do it better because everybody's watching. And there's a lot of people that would just love to see you fail.
Especially up there in Washington, where there are efforts to actually shut down the medical and force it into a vertically integrated, recreational, take away the medical altogether, which is sad. So when you have issues like this, it does make it more difficult for other entrepreneurs to follow.
Exactly. And people are watching. I mean, people in the no states, as KC calls them,
Nebraska and Oklahoma,
and other states too that are teetering on the edge, they're going to use this information. Now, granted, it was only 4 people that screwed, or 4 stores that screwed up. I get that. That's, it's not a huge percentage, blah, blah, blah. But the bottom line is that people are going to use this as fodder to try and say, okay, now look what they're doing. They're slinging weed, and it's getting into the hands of our children. And you can bet that they're going to blow this completely out of proportion when it is so simple to stop. I woke up this morning, I read that article, and literally I was standing to guard going, you have got to be kidding me.
That surprised me that they would actually sell to underage people and not check IDs. Here in Colorado and everywhere we've ever gone and ever taught, you know, it's mandatory. This is an SOP. It's not something you overlook. You must check ID. I checked my mother when she came to my place. So
yeah. And it's not that you know that you're over 21. It's that you can prove by way of a government issued ID that you're over 21.
There's a little bit more of a weird thing going on, Mr. Howard. You know, this is sting number one. Story sting number two. We have another story sting coming at you.
Okay, this when I read this article, I at first I was laughing, and then it was just like, oh my God. In Las Vegas at HempCon, they arrested 10 people. 5 vendors were caught selling marijuana at HempCon to undercover officers. Let me give you a little news flash. Everybody that's listening, whenever there is a hemp or cannabis event, there are going to be undercover police officers. They go hand in hand. And you want to know, yes, I was going to say, you want to know what the undercover officer looks like? He's tatted up. He's got a bolt through his nose, and it looks like he lost a fight with a nail gun. You'll never recognize him. He's got his hat on sideways, his pants halfway down his butt, or it's a lady that's, you know, very attractive, very charming, you know, but they're undercover cops. They look like you and me, and they're not going to tell you.
Undercover cop encounters, you know, we expect that, just like checking the IDs at our operations that might have developed. You know, we expect undercover agents. We expect cops, because that's going to happen. And then you do everything the same every time, regardless of who it is, whether it's your mother or the undercover brother. You treat them all the same with the absolute right of the law.
Yeah, and the thing is that as sad as it sounds, because this is an all-cash business, and because there is a possibility of, and certainly a possibility of a sting operation, I tell my dispensary owners and cultivators and everything else, treat everyone that comes in that door as if they were either an undercover cop or a thief. Now, that's a sad state of affairs, and I get that. But the problem is that thieves will come in and they will case the joint and see where the cameras are and how you handle letting people in and out.
How many people are on staff?
Yeah, how many people are on staff and when you move money, how you move money. I mean, all of this should be invisible to everyone except for the people in the know in your business. But when I see something like this, it's unbelievable to me, you know, because I know that the undercover cops are there. I know that they are. I just don't know who they are.
So we treat them all the same.
Yeah, you treat everybody all the same. And the thing with you know, like Cannabis Cups and HempCon and all of those events, I know that they take place, but generally speaking, it depends on what jurisdiction you're in. It's very difficult to jive the event with the statutes and regulations that are in place. As a matter of fact, for the last Cannabis Cup in Denver, MED, the Marijuana Enforcement Division, sent out letters to everybody in the industry. Every licensee in the industry got one. And it was funny because I got one just because I know the people at MED, but I got about 15 from my clients saying, did you see this? What they were basically saying is that there's no legal way for you to get your product to the Cannabis Cup. And so if we see that's going on, or we see that sales are going on, we're going to be there enforcing, we're going to bust people. That's basically the gist of the letter. So they was basically, you know, think twice before you do this. I encourage my clients, you know, really think hard about whether, you know, having a trophy on the wall is worth having a potential for having your store shut down.
Yeah, we saw that up in Denver on the 420 festival. There were so many people slinging weed that was hard for the cops to keep up for it. But I would hate to have any of my clients, my friends, be the last person to go to jail for pot.
Yeah.
So we're so close to tipping the scale on Indian prohibition. For anyone to break the laws, the simple ones such as checking IDs, or the very simple ones, you know, selling weed without a license at open markets is against the law.
Yeah.
It looks cool, it might feel cool, but you might spend some time behind some bars.
Yeah, and also too, I found out in Phoenix there was a deal. Everyone in town that was in the industry in Phoenix. I spent a year down in Phoenix, opening a couple of stores down there and grow, and everybody was in the industry knew that there was this thing. They called it the farmers market, and I think it was partially farmers market and partially, you know, almost a sanctioned drug sale. But they closed that down too with a sting operation. Big surprise.
Yeah, we're looking at, you mentioned Arizona, Mr. Houghton, and there is a big push right now. More than half a dozen marijuana-related initiatives to legalize marijuana have been filed in the state of Arizona. Supporters of the initiatives now have 13 months to collect more than 150,000 signatures before the November 2016 ballot. So, you know, we see the laws, we see it progressing, and the legislative body's just finished and right back to work filing petitions.
And it only takes 150,000 signatures.
That's what it says here. Supporters of the initiative have the next 13 months to collect 150,000 signatures. Yes, sir.
Man, that's a relatively low standard. Now, Arizona, for people that haven't been there, most people live in three places. They either live in Phoenix or one of the suburbs. They live in Flagstaff, or they live in, name escapes me. What's the other big city? Tucson. Duh.
Like Scottsdale.
Yeah, well, Scottsdale's suburb of Phoenix.
I
mean, there's the greater metro area of Phoenix, which is spread out all over the place, but that's a different story. Anyway, just to have just 150,000 signatures in a metropolitan area that has, I think, like 3 or 4 million people, that shouldn't be that hard. And what I saw in Arizona and the way that the regulations are handled down there, it's a bit of an anomaly. They broke the state up initially into geographic areas that they called CHAWS, Community Health Area Association, something or other. Anyway, it was just a way of arbitrarily drawing lines on a map that didn't necessarily match up with counties. Anyway, there were 125 licenses that were offered. They did it by lottery, and they literally did it by putting bingo balls in a machine. I watched it live streaming, and I haven't had a laugh like that in a good long time.
Well, it looks like they're the newest initiative down there. One of them, the Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act, would set the legal age of marijuana at 21 and set a standard 15% flat tax rate for retail cannabis, with the money going to public health and education.
And that's a giant step in the right direction, because in Arizona, all of the dispensaries are held in a nonprofit. Now, I have to remind people that just up until like 4 months ago, the National Football League was a nonprofit.
Very, very wealthy nonprofit.
Yeah, so just because it's nonprofit doesn't mean that people weren't making money. It's just a different way of doing things. But at any rate, it sounds to me like they're embracing this now as a business rather than as a nonprofit model. And I can tell you that the regulators in Arizona were a dream to work with. They were sharp, they were thorough, but they were fair. And if there was a problem, you talked about it and you got it resolved. So I hope that that same mentality moves through. The program in Arizona is run by the Arizona Department of Health Services, their health department, and they did a stellar job. They had real-time tracking, because in Arizona, as a patient, you could only buy up to 2.5 ounces every 14 days. But if you swiped their medical marijuana ID card, it would instantaneously tell you how much they had used of that 2.5 ounces on a rolling 14-day schedule. So, you know, something that was 15 days old automatically came off, and anything in the 14 days showed. So if you ran the card and say they used 1.5 ounces, that means that they had 1 ounce that was available for them to purchase. So, and the system worked beautifully.
Well, there is a big fight going on down there. There is Seth Leipson, from the chairman of the Arizonans for Responsible Drug Policy. He's going back on the Reefer Madness 2.1 issue, and he says here, they know marijuana is a dangerous product because their legislation allows for possession of only 1 ounce. They want to say it's going to be like alcohol. It's not. Mr. Leipson goes on, we will push back and we will remind people of the old line from Gone in the Wind. It's just as easy to destroy society as it is to build one up. Quote, when you look at marijuana use does to the dropout rate, to the teen mind, to outcomes, to children's health, this is nothing that the state would want. And that is absolutely false. Dear Seth Leipson of the Arizona Responsible Drug Policy, you are wrong, and your argument should be gone with the wind, because your argument has destroyed society, turning our American workers and fellow Americans into incarceration nation, putting us in prison for a plant. Cannabis has actually been shown to help children with health. I've been consuming cannabis since I was in the 2nd grade, and I was a straight A student, dropped out of college because it bored me. And many of the most successful people in America are college dropouts, and we can name the list of the top 10 millionaires among them. So when we look at those arguments, we're going to push back as well, Seth Leipson, because your argument should be on the win. We're proving that cannabis is a healing plant. It's safer than alcohol. So as you drink your champagne, your wine down there at your Arizona's for Responsible Drug Policy, why don't you light one up and find out how much safer that is?
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. Again, they're pushing that same old agenda that just doesn't work anymore. There's too much anecdotal evidence, and there's too much now hard evidence that those arguments, they just don't hold
Yeah, they
up.
sound pretty still.
Yeah, and you know that ship has sailed a long time ago.
So Arizona, you got 13 months. Let's bring down the heat and bring out state number 5. Would be nice to have Arizona online.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful state, a beautiful thing for Arizonans. More jobs, more opportunity. This is letstalkpot.com. We'll be back on the other side, and we'll talk about some good news, I hope. Hey, Drew, are you there?
In the jailhouse now. Very
Okay.
nice play out. Like that one.
Okay, Drew, yeah, we can hear you perfect. I'm going to put you on program so that you'll be live when we come back. Okay, and we're just going to ask you a few questions about where you are, what you're doing, and what you're seeing there. And so add all the color that you can. Be exciting. Okay.
Well,
I know
how
you
is it
can
up
do it.
there?
I know you can do it. 20 minutes. Is there a lot of people? As busy as the one was in Las Vegas? Oh, really? Damn it. Okay. Well, I guess that's good, but
Well, it's it's those shows are pretty fantastic. Are there something you're looking for specifically up there, Drew? Are you seeing the same vendors or new ones? Yes. You actually have a client up there. Yeah, we go on here probably about 90 seconds.
Yeah, you'll hear the music come up. You probably will hear Chicago. Actually, you could probably go outside and hear him because he's being produced in Chicago. Yeah, I went looking for the dude and they told me he was in Chicago, and I'm like, what? Really? Oh, over on
Just FYI. Every single state and Canada.
Cool. Just so you know, the programming director just poked his head in and said that because the CBS story aired this morning, we now have listeners in right now this minute in every single state and Canada on right now. So be entertaining.
There we go. I fought the law and I won. Hey, a lot of good news coming on the radio here today. I like that music. Thank you very much, Chicago. You know, there's speaking of Chicago, looks like we have a call in line there, Mr. Houghton.
Yeah, we do. We have Drew Milburn, the CEO of Gala Global, and also a good friend of the show, a good friend of mine. Drew, how you doing? Okay, tell us a little bit about, first of all, the name of the event. Tell us what's going on there and kind of what you're seeing.
Well, Drew, you and I have been to these events. Well, you've been to a lot of these shows. Are you seeing new vendors, the familiar faces? What's going on in Chicago?
And better technology means more jobs, and that's what we're all about.
No, it's interesting you bring that up because I was at the last event, the Marijuana Investors Summit up there in Denver, held by Randy Shipley and his crew. And some of the technology I thought was very interesting. I saw the one little handheld breathalyzer to test THC amounts. I mean, that is one little handheld device that will probably likely be in every police department in the next 10 years. Another one I saw was a home, the magic butter device, which it's kind of like a bread maker. It looks like a toaster. You throw your cannabis in there, you throw your butter in there, and 20 minutes later, out comes magical, beautiful cannabis butter, and that thing is being sold at Walmart. For those people out there that aren't familiar with a CO2 extractor is, Drew, why don't you explain that to them? Yeah, we're seeing that we're calling, it's black is the new gold, the oils, the cannabis oils, the cannabis extracts. They're much more highly concentrated. They can be used in a varieties of manners once you get it to that oil base. We saw one of the huge extractors up there at the MIS. Are they developing smaller platforms as well, or are they going more to the? Are you seeing them growing in bigger and bolder for the industrial use? If anyone out there just heard that, the reason for that, there's several, Drew. And one, because many of these states, 16 of them now, have low CBD oil bills where you can't smoke it, you have to eat it, or have to use an oil. So the law is actually creating demand for that solution in the market, because that's the only way some of these states are going to let you do it. Is that right? Yeah, we saw that as well. There's there's hundreds of tribes across this country, and we haven't brought that up, Mr. Howard, but there's a allowance for marijuana and cannabis production on reservations. We should actually do a class just about that.
Yeah, in dealing with the Native Americans, which is that they have their own set of rules and everything like that. So it takes a kind of a special skill set when you're dealing with Native Americans and the use of cannabis or production or whatever on native soils. One of the things that I want to touch on though is that Drew's sitting in a convention hall in a major hotel, a major chain hotel in one of the most populated areas of the United States in Chicago, surrounded by literally thousands of people talking about cannabis and the industry and everything like that. Now, if you would have told me that such a thing would have even been possible 5 years ago, I would have said you're nuts, number one. And secondly, unless you've been to one of these things, you don't realize just the magnitude of what we're talking about. I went to the one in Las Vegas. They filled up the Rio Hotel's convention arm, which is a huge facility with vendors and then breakout programs. I mean, they were taking probably what, 100,000 square feet in Las Vegas, easy. Well, and the thing is that people are beginning to realize, number one, the industry isn't going to go away, but also that there's a lot of opportunities for a lot of different people. Because if you walk up and down the aisles of one of those conventions, you'll see everything from packaging to lighting to nutrients to different grow methodologies, greenhouses, modular buildings. I mean, you name it.
Hemp shampoo. You know, it's interesting, Drew, you mentioned that there's actually a big expo going on here, probably the biggest one in Southern Colorado, coming up on June 19th and 20th, the U.S. Cannabis Expo of Colorado Springs. I believe that you're going to be speaking at that event.
I will be speaking at that event.
So I hope you join us there as well, Drew, you global ganja traveler.
Drew, you're breaking up just a little bit. Stand still. That's better. Yeah, and the reason why I said it, I know Drew paces when he talks on the phone. I've seen him do it. Stand still. Break it up again. Okay.
You know, that's interesting, Drew. We have a client up there, Mr. Houghton and I wanted to reach out to you. So when we're done, if it's okay with you, I'll give him your number. He's actually walking around the same convention with you. I will do. We're connecting business all around this planet. We just got a news flash from the radio that we are actually now being listened to by, in every single state, someone somehow is online tuned into your voice. So across this nation, it's not just conventions, it's everyday Americans, 50 states, from Mile High to Uruguay, from Chile to Chicago, Drew. What are your plans for the future? That's right. That's right. I mean, 10 years ago, I would have been in jail for what we were doing. You know, 20 years ago, I never thought this would happen in my lifetime, and yet it's going very rapidly. We rented the hotel up there, the Magnificent Mile in Chicago, and just to see, you know, senators, governors, entrepreneurs, from mom and pops to millionaires, we say it all the time, it's out there.
Well, yeah, and for those that don't know, Kentucky was at one time one of the largest hemp producing states in the United States. Drew is from Kentucky, and I know he's got strong ties to that state, just like I have strong ties in Colorado. And again, it's about, this is the Canabusiness Attorney Hour. And what we like to talk about is, opportunities and, putting people to work. And it's not just, hands-on marijuana. It is all of the things that you see at a convention like that. And one of the things that we're trying to get the word out on is that hemp is not only alive and well, but it's going to start booming across the United States, and it's going to present job opportunities from everything from cultivation to processing to distribution to marketing to sales to, you name it. It's a whole brand new industry that's just being reinvented.
It's actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because just yesterday, the Attorney General, who's actually going to run for Senator Boxer's seat, Camilla Harris, says, and I quote, "War on drugs was a failure." Quote, "Now is the time to end the federal ban on medical marijuana." Quote. This is an Attorney General. Speaking of the closet, we're going to go to break here in about 30 seconds, Drew. So we're going to put you back in that cannabis closet in Chicago and have some fun up there.
Yeah, we'll see you when you get back. Have a good one. This is the Canabusiness Attorney. Let's talk pot.com. We'll see you on the other side. Isn't it though?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
What was that last song? It was a theme song, wasn't it?
That was a theme song. People's Court.
People's
That's
Court.
it. I knew I'd heard it
Back.
before. Okay, I've got this article called up on here.
You know what? I read that one too. Does not include this. That's
Yeah.
good too. The only thing I wanted to mention was that.
Uh-oh.
Good morning.
No, I forgot to drop it on.
That was only that one. And Minnesota has a big one today, Mr. Allen.
What's
You said Minnesota actually has. Minnesota is one of the handful of states. Medical marijuana goes legal on July 1st in Minnesota. One of the handful of states that prohibits employees from refusing to hire or fire people because they failed a drug test for marijuana.
Say that again. It's against a lot of refuse to hire them or to fire
Or to
them.
fire them solely for failing a drug test, as long as the people are using legal marijuana. So
Ooh,
this is,
that's huge.
yeah,
Whereas in
right?
Colorado, it's the exact opposite.
That's the exact opposite. You have the right to fire because of it. And this is medical marijuana.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the opiate stuff.
Okay.
I want to say National Geographic for a while because I actually printed the article out
Oh,
and I haven't had a chance to read it all.
it's a big one.
It's huge.
Okay, we do that. And
That's the one that said embarrassment of bridges.
Okay. Nice story. Yeah, they do. National Geographic doesn't mess around. Yes, on July 1st, medical marijuana become legal in the land of 10,000 lakes. The date is fast approaching. It makes it illegal to ever penalize people. No, you can still face trouble. The act only changed the law, so it is no longer a crime to use marijuana for certain reasons. Minnesota is one of the hand state that prohibits employers for refusing to hire or fire you simply because you tested positive for marijuana. Drug-free work zone, can refuse to hire. If you must have a drug-free school zone, then you can do it. So if you're in your school, then you can, because that overrides you.
Right.
If you're mandated.
So like if you're a teacher or something. Like
yes.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yes, they're saying that you're probably going to have to change your laws there for their compliance policies. So you want to start with Minnesota and go into Oregon?
Yeah, and then talk about Colorado, because we got some emails through the station that said, you know, I'm being fired because I'm using cannabis, and that would be a good tie into those.
Okay.
That's a
Mr. Howden's theme song, the lowrider himself.
Lowrider.
To the Canabusiness Attorney
friend.
Hour
no,
with Mr. Charles T. Howden. And we got to end this on some good news across this country. I got a news flash for you. On July 1st, medical marijuana will be legal in the land of 10,000 lakes. We're talking Minnesota, baby.
Yeah, and first of all, it's used, and secondly, there is a provision in their law that is different than what you'll see in most states.
This is historic,
and it's profound. And so when Casey tells you what this is, listen very carefully, because I'm going to, once he's finished talking about it, I'm going to give you what happens here in Colorado and other states. So
yes, America is known to be the right to hire and fire state. I can fire you for anything except your race, color, and creed. I can fire you for your accent, your shoes, how you show up to work, but I cannot fire you for your color and creed and religion. However, there's a new clause within the Minnesota Medical Marijuana Act that makes it illegal to penalize people for lawfully using marijuana. Now, what is the difference between that and having medical marijuana? The difference is this. Minnesota is one of a handful of states that prohibits employers from refusing to hire or fire you solely on the fact that you tested positive for medical marijuana use. That is a social historic change.
that is completely different, because in Colorado, for instance, it's built into both of the constitutional amendments, Amendment 20 and Amendment 64, that you can, as opposed to Minnesota where you cannot. But in Colorado, you can fire someone because they're using a legal drug, whether it's recreational or medical, either one. An employer with a zero tolerance drug policy, or any other kind of a drug policy, they can fire you. And there's nothing in the state of Colorado that I or any other attorney could do to prevent that from happening. Also in Colorado, landlords can discriminate against you just because you use marijuana. They can tell you that you can't smoke in their place, both residential and commercial, and they can tell you that you can't grow there. A landlord can't. Minnesota is taking a huge step forward by saying this is a legal drug, and so just because you're using this legal drug is not grounds for either not hiring you, a hiring decision, or a termination decision. And I think that
opposite, right?
Yeah, that's the exact opposite of Colorado. And I think it's huge. And I think people are beginning to recognize that this is medicine, and the people that are using it as medicine, they need it. It's not, an either or something like that. So what we're seeing is, I think we're chipping away at this, reefer madness 2.0.
Yeah, losing your job is serious. I mean, this is probably the most frightening thing for most people that have been closet cannabis consumers for decades is, I like this product, it works for me, I like it, it's better than alcohol, but I could lose my job, I could lose my children, I could lose my career, I could lose my home. Right now in Minnesota, the Minnesota Medical Marijuana Act draws a new line for those who are using medical marijuana legally in the state of Minnesota. Well, guess what? Your employer does not have the right to fire you simply on that fact alone. And that's a brand new America. So tip of the hat to our colleagues there in Minnesota. Job well done.
And that's a beautiful thing. And then also too, I think we're going to finish up on another, I guess it's bittersweet is the best way that I can put it. There was an article in Forbes magazine, again, just having it in Forbes magazine is amazing. The headline is combination of medical marijuana, opioids does not increase substance abuse risk, a study found.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. And so what they did was they took participants who admitted to both using medical marijuana and prescription opioids, and they found out that there was no link between the use of medical marijuana and substance abuse.
And that's what we've been having to fight for just decades, is the fact that this argument that cannabis is somehow a gateway drug. No, drug dealers on the street are gateway drugs. They held the keys to the gateways to heroin and meth and harder drugs.
And listen to this. This is the statistic that scares me. That the Centers for Disease Control, a federal agency, classifies opioid misuse, abuse, and overdose as epidemic. Earlier this year, the CDC revealed that, get this, there were 16,235 deaths involving prescription opioids in 2013. And that's an increase of 1% from 2012, meaning that 16,000 people died in 2012 because of prescription opioid abuse. Now, that is 16,000 people. I don't know how many people we kill on the highways every day. I know we don't kill that many people in the military every year. And guess how many people in 2012 and 2013 died from the use of marijuana?
Zero.
Absolutely zero. The only way I think that you could die from the use of cannabis is if a bale of it fell on you from a 27-story building.
That's right. Cannabis has proven that it really is, it doesn't have an overdose risk. The body has a natural defense. You go to sleep or you vomit. That does not work with opiates. You die.
You die. And so...
but there's no relation. This study is putting a bullet in the head of cannabis is a gateway drug, or cannabis is not safe. What's your
I think what they're getting at is that it is not a gateway drug, that it is, it is in and of itself the destination. It's not like, you go from, and we said this once before, it's like, I know a lot of people that use this product. I don't know any one of them that gets high and then says, you know what, I could use a little crack cocaine to go on top of this.
No, it doesn't. Not my circle.
Yeah, and I just don't know people that are like that. And so, you're probably wondering, why are we telling you this information? The reason being is that marijuana is held to a higher standard as far as passing whatever rules and regulations in whatever state you happen to be in. What we're trying to do is threefold. Number one, we want you to have the information available so that you can counterattack this Reefer Madness 2.0 stuff.
Yeah, that's very good information to have in your pocket.
Number two, it gives you the ability to go in front of a legislature and make compelling arguments about the use of marijuana as medicine, or even on a recreational scale. Because if it's not a gateway drug, then a lot of the arguments that you're going to run into are going to lose their win.
That's right.
And then the third thing is that if you go in armed with this information and you start the dialogue, pretty soon you're going to have a cannabis industry in your home state. And if you do that, you're going to have jobs. And that's what we're all about here. This is business. We are trying to expand business.
This is big business, you know, whether it's Minnesota or it's Washington or it's Vegas or Arizona or it's Illinois or, you know, we've gone through 5 different states just this morning where a new opportunity is buzzing to the top of the crop.
Yeah, and also to think about it, if you are involved in a business that helps save the lives of people and you make money and you alleviate suffering, is there a better business that you can think of?
That's a pretty cool job, Mr. Allen.
Yeah, I mean, they don't get any better than that. But when I saw 16,235 people died from prescription opioids, I am surprised that it's not the other way around. That prescription opioids ought to be banned and marijuana ought to be legal. I mean, this is insanity.
That is where we're at. You know, we hear these people like the representative down in Arizona that was talking about how this is dangerous, and Seth Leapson from the Arizona Responsible Drug Policy. You know what? It is not true. They should be upset. Where is the uproar about the opioid overdose? Where is the uproar about Bayer aspirin? Where is the uproar about the lies that we hear from pharmaceutical companies of cross-marketing those products? What was used for schizophrenia now automatically now is some kind of sleep drug?
Yeah.
I mean, these people are being sued for billions of dollars because of lying, and they get away with it because they pay a fine.
Yeah, and to me, that is a travesty. And, you know, again, if you're looking at this for something that's bigger than cannabis, you know, like Lisa from Kansas City, I still come from Kansas. I still keep coming back to her. She's my second new hero. But anyway, she said a couple of things, and I think that you need to listen to this. Number one, we used to have guts around here. Somebody needs to stand up and say enough is enough. We've had enough of all of this propaganda. We've been fed all the lies that we can stomach, and we're not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, we're not going to take this anymore.
Okay, and the other thing is that we're going to save lives, number one, and we're going to create jobs, and we're going to alleviate suffering, and we're going to do it whether you like it or not. You know,
And
sometimes
that's the power of the people. You across this country that are listening to the show maybe for the very first time, I have news for you. You can be part of the end of prohibition. You can change the laws where you are at. And if you have questions and you don't get them all answered here on the radio, you can visit Mr. Howden at thecanabusinessattorney.com. If you want to join us and learn, you can visit us at howtomarijuana.com. And if you want to join us across this country, Mr. Howden, we were visiting 10 state capitals in 15 days, starting June 1st in Topeka, going all around the dirty South, Baton Rouge, Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama, Louisiana, Tennessee, Kentucky. And if you want to get down and dirty, go to endofprohibition.com. I dare you.
Yes, and you need to get involved in this, not only for the sake of saving lives, but also for the sake of saving your own freedom. This is letstalkpot.com. I'm Charles, the Canabusiness Attorney, not Cannabis Business Attorney, the Canabusiness Attorney. I got KC, my partner in crime, at howtomarijuana.com. Come see us on June 5th in Kansas City, Uptown Theater. See you tomorrow. That's Warren Seed on it.
I like it.